Okay, people. So you know these people, right? We've got Toby Poser and John Adams, the uh, the the leading figures of the Adams family, the filmmakers supreme, and goddamn, just straight up nice people. So, guys, thank you so much for stopping by.
It's great to be back. I think this is our third time hanging out with you.
It is. It is the third time, man.
She's a charm, Kevin. So thanks.
Well, I mean, ever since I saw Hellbender, I was just blown away. So, and it's funny because you watch a film and you really like it. And then when you know they've got something else coming out, you're like, okay, can't wait. But oh, I hope it's good. I hope it's good. And then Where the Devil Roams just was sensational.
Oh,
Just was sensational.
Thank
So
you.
then you find out there's a slightly different situation with this next joint, right? And so it's just like, well, they kick ass on their own. So if you give them a bigger budget, and they're only just gonna kick more ass, right? And that's what you did. You were
well,
just
right.
kicking all ass over Europe.
Thank you. That it was definitely a new vibe and a really new experience because our crew size went from like 2 to 4 to about 50. So that
Yeah.
was on its own pretty eye opening, and it was wonderful shooting in Serbia.
Mm. Yeah. How did that whole situation come about?
The production company that did the movie had already made a bunch of movies over there. They have basically a connection in Serbia. They have one in Albania. Somehow they've kind of got a network over there. I think they made Castle Freak in Albania. They made what was the one Subspecies in Serbia. So they just kind of went back to the sister agency that they worked with in Serbia because I think that they could like stretch their money further than if they had shot it in the US.
Yeah, that makes sense. So did you have the whole idea and then you touch base with them, or was it a collaborative effort kind of thing?
We were doing The Last Driving with Joe Bob Briggs, which they produce. And so when we were shooting that a few years ago, the producers, Matt Mendrides and Justin Martell, said, "Oh, have you guys got any scripts you want to shoot? What's cooking?" And John had this really fun idea after driving in Alberta, Canada, with these vast oil fields and all the empty man camps out there. And so he kind of had conjured up this fun idea, and we knew that was unlikely to be something we would shoot on our own. So that's how it kind of fell into their laps. And next thing you know, we're shooting.
Okay. Okay. Because yeah, it does make a lot of sense, right? And then just the whole fracking idea, and you just think, yeah, like you can, you're all people like companies are doing that all over the world. So why not Serbia, right?
Yeah,
It's
it's
just
funny.
one of those things.
We didn't know that there was a big we had written the script for Canada where the story came up with. So it was more of an American Canadian story about kind of roughnecks and that whole concept, and there was a love story in it, and it was a much different script, and we had kind of expected to shoot it in the Catskills, kind of like the way we're used to shooting. But that didn't really work out. And they said, we really have to shoot it in Serbia. Can you kind of rewrite the script? And the first question was, well, is there even fracking in Serbia? And it turns out that Serbia has just started fracking, actually. So there is that issue is going on in Serbia right now. And so it kind of worked out that Toby took over the script and rewrote it quite many times so that it could fit with the new environment, new cultures, new everything. And I think she did a really great job. It was fun watching her work fast.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole Napoleonic War thing at the start was, I was just like, wait, huh? Wait, what's happening? What
Yeah.
is this?
Well, that's funny, Kevin, because Lulu, our daughter Lulu, had written the original draft, and she is pretty much fluent in French, and so she had written that fun scene with the Frenchman and the play on words that happens there. And when we knew it was going to shoot in Serbia, suddenly we were nervous because we were like, man, we really dig this scene. We don't want to change it. So fortunately, we typed all Google and former Yugoslavia and Napoleon, just to make that connection. And fortunately, his troops had gone into the Illyrian Peninsula, so we were like, woo.
And
Yeah.
failed. They went there and failed miserably. Like
Yeah.
they went, basically just scattered and got destroyed. So it did work out.
Yeah, well, it wasn't one of his golden moments.
No, I don't think that's what he's famous for.
Yeah, so that was fun, but I'm just like, I wouldn't take a horse from a woman who has a kind of maniacal grin on her face. And like,
Yeah, but you're not hungry.
very true.
You can walk right outside your door, take a left, and have some fish and chips. Now these characters, they were eyeing each other like, hey, the skinny guy's looking pretty tasty. So I think when a horse comes along, you'll take it from whoever. I loved that woman. She wasn't even supposed to be the actress, but it was her horse.
Right.
And when we saw her, we were like, oh, well, come on. I mean, she's amazing.
Yeah, it was the smile. It was the facial expressions that really sold it. It was great.
It's great that you mention it. Toby and I had a big argument about the facial expression, a creative argument. And it was like, I loved her smile. I thought the smile was so funny. And Toby's like, I don't know. I think we're giving it away. And so I'm glad you like the smile.
Yeah, the smile was fun. Because yeah, you get the situation the soldiers are in, but you're just like, oh no, that doesn't bode well.
No. Well, I loved Anders Hove's, all of his expressions. Speaking of great expressions, in the beginning, he doesn't do much. The older Frenchman.
Yeah.
But everything that he does, to me, was amazing. And while he was doing it, I couldn't really see it because I was standing pretty far away from him, just kind of watching him. And I couldn't see the minuscule expressions that he was doing with his face and everything. But in the end, when I got to edit him, I was like, oh my God, he gave me so much, right? Wasn't he wonderful?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, what was the casting like with this one?
It was really fun to cast because we were in Belgrade for 3 weeks for pre-production. And so we got to meet this wonderful casting director there named Anna, and she just brought in a bunch of wonderful actors, and John and I kind of improvised with them, and the process was really fun. And that in the end we knew who was right for what role, and the cast was so lovable and they were so generous, and they really took the humor. We had to make, when we got there, we had to make sure the script could be translated well into their language, but also incorporate their sense of humor. So in a way, there's like a difference between some of the things they're saying in Serbian and what we Americans see in the subtitles, because, they're just little nuances that don't translate. But these guys were really helpful with that. They were so kind to each other and kind to us. I just fell in love with that cast. I think they really knocked it out of the park.
They were great.
Oh, they really did. They really did. And I've definitely, like, everyone was fantastic, but I definitely have to say Olivia Panunanik was so good because she's the intern. And there was that whole joyous exhilaration of being like, I'm out of the classroom. I'm running with the adults now, and I'm doing all of this work. And you bought that right? There's the smiles and be like, oh my God, I got a sample. And oh, did you know about the rabbits? And it's just like, it was so believable. It was so good.
She is so great. And she's the first actress we saw because she got it in so fast. And we were like, oh, well, we're sold. It was a really high bar for anyone after her, to meet. And they were wonderful, but we were really sold on her from the get-go.
And she was a super pleasure to work with and worked so hard. And I agree with you. Like, she had to kind of like, she had to be a particular kind of character, which could be really cheesy and silly if not done right. And she like did it she stepped right on the beauty line. It was great. She was
and knew all her lines. I mean, she speaks beautiful English, but she's so intelligent.
Yeah.
Just as a human. And we asked a lot of her to do all that science talk, and she nailed it. And she was such a consummate pro. And she's actually now going out with the guy who played Christian, who had the scene with John.
Yeah.
And I love to think that they met through us.
But here's another fun thing. She was so good that one of the actors was, because one of the actors could hardly speak any English, so he had to get help to learn all of his lines. And so his wife at home had helped him with all of his English lines. And when we were shooting, he was having a really hard time, and we were starting to burn time, and we had no time to burn. Like, we had you have to shoot the scene in an hour. And so I was watching him burn time, and I really liked him, and I felt very nervous for him. And so we were like, stop for a second. Everybody left. And we said to Ollie, we were like, could you do his lines? Could you just do his lines, like as almost narration? And she did his lines, and she was amazing, and she saved the day, and he knocked his whole role out of the park. It was just like one of those moments where you could see like the pressure it was just a bad moment, and it was like, we need to unplug this bad moment because we don't need a bad moment. Everybody here is trying their best. So rather than, hit a dull nail, let's just get Ollie to do it. And Ollie nailed it under pressure. She was just like, I know his lines because I know his lines because I need to know what mine are after his. So it was great.
Oh man, like the chemistry was superb across the board. Right, Max was the scenes with Max and you guys was like, so don't call me mom.
We've known him since he was maybe 8 years old, and he grew up with our daughters in California, and he's just lovable, and we thought he was so right for this role. He is a teddy bear. And so playing Teddy was natural, and we're so glad that he came over and did that with us. He's also a really intelligent and super walking encyclopedia of film knowledge. So he was a pleasure.
Did he help you with sets on Where the Devil Roams?
He was an actor in Where the Devil Roams, and he's also an actor in a film called The Hatred of Ours. And he was a PA when he was 14 years old on The Shoot.
Right.
In 2014.
Okay, right. Yeah, because I'm thinking, I swear I've seen it, but I couldn't quite pinpoint it.
Well, he was in Where the Devil Roams. He's in the card game.
He's a clown.
And he's one of the two clowns that keep showing up.
Right. That was it. That was it. But yeah, he was really good. And it was the humor, right? I think it was the humor, and also the humor of the translation, right? It's that thing when you've got people that English isn't their first language and they're talking to people and they're thinking, these people are dumb. And so it'd be like, ha, ha, ha. And then in your own language, it'd be like, what are these guys going on about, right? And all of that, it felt so natural. It didn't feel clunky, like it's written to be like, you know what I mean? It just worked. Like, you're like, yes, I've come across this situation. I've seen this happen in real life.
That's a huge compliment. We are Americans that love going to Europe, and we fully understand what Europeans think of Americans. And so we have been those Americans many times. And what's funny is, like, I speak German, she speaks Italian, our daughter speaks French, we both speak some French. So oftentimes we'll be in Europe and we can understand what people are saying about us.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because you don't let on until like the relationship or the business transaction is totally over. And then you say goodbye in their language and your accent's good. So they say, oh my God, we talked so much shit about them this whole time. So that was fun to bake into the story because, you know, Americans have generally a love-hate relationship with all of Europe. I mean, the way Europeans look at us, you know?
Yeah. But yeah, no, I thought that was masterful. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. Like, how was it getting into these characters?
It's funny, Kevin, for this, because we had been writing it and we were directing it, we knew the script so well. In a way, at least I personally felt that acting, it was almost just like I was going by rote because I knew the character, having co-written her and having to have my head in wearing a director's hat as well. It just felt very natural. Like I didn't think a lot about it. In many ways, Emily's running a ship, and in many ways we were running a ship. So it just seemed kind of baked in to the job.
Yeah, for me, it was fun. I grew up, you know, upstate. I might as well have grown up in Kansas in a way, you know, and it's like, so for me, the character of John, I just had to amp up the redneck, like only just a little, you know, and it's fun. I think he's funny and he's lovable, even though he's also a fool.
Yeah, he's kind of brash.
Yeah,
but like, you know what I mean? It's walking that line of, you know, of not a straight arsehole or anything like that.
right.
But it's just, you know what I mean, a little braggadocious, a little, you know,
Yeah,
a nice dude.
But he pays the penalty for any foolishness.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It was fun to make him pay.
It was fun also not to be a couple in it.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was fun not to be married and just be friends. I mean, something that was important for me with Emily was I'm always playing mothers, or I'm often playing mothers. So it was important in this film to portray someone who really has no interest in motherhood at all. She doesn't have much of a maternal nature, and she left that more to Teddy. He's more the parental type. And that was really fun to represent in this film.
Right. Yeah. What was it like making a film without Zelda and Lulu?
Actually, for me, it was fun. I really enjoyed it. But like, definitely, it also showed me that I love making films with the four of us. But it was fun because it was just a different transaction. Those actors were there to act. They talked to us like we were directing, and it was just a very different transaction, art process. When we're a family, we're all just equals. We all just kind of move together. In this situation, everybody has their job. You're all equals still, but everybody has specific jobs. Actors are actors, directors are directors, lighting people are lighting people, cameramen or camera women are camera women. It's like, it's just different than what we're used to. You know, everybody holds all the cards in our family when we work together.
It was a nice distraction as well, Kevin, because Zelda had just entered college. And so it's nice to be busy when suddenly you have an empty nest, you know? It gave us something to do, and we definitely were like gung-ho to go explore something together.
Yeah.
Yeah. It like, because I imagine when you're making, you know, your other films, there's a different kind of weight on your shoulders. So with this one, that, it being different, does it kind of change the way in which you kind of perceive a project?
That's the best question been asked yet. And yes is the answer. I know. Yeah. When we make movies as a family, it's our life. There's no separation between dinner and movies. And it's like we make movies for a living, but it's not work. It's what we do together. With the four of us have been doing this now for 13 years. And luckily we grew up just learning how these are all symbiotic. Like dinner feeds into shooting, which feeds into kicking a soccer ball, which feeds into we're camping. I don't know. It's like there's no separation, and that's really beautiful. When you shoot with 50 people, it is a job. You're responsible for a lot of things. You're responsible to get things done on time. You're responsible to the financiers. You're responsible to the lighting department or to the actors. It's 100% different, don't you think?
Oh yeah, it is. And just from the nature of your question too, it feels different when I think about the canon, the roster of our films. This one has its own place. It was a wonderful experience, but it's just so different from our homegrown efforts that it feels just different in a sense. Our family, it has to grow. You have to think of the people you're working with in essence as your family, but the nature of the whole process was just so different. It was unique, and we learned a lot. I mean, when we showed up, I admittedly was a little shell shocked because I wasn't used to trailers and makeup people and lighting, and I was a little blown away at first.
It's also funny because when you work with a big crew and basically under the textbook of the way the industry makes movies, there's not any wiggle room. It's all, you have to get the way you make your best movie is if you shoot the script the way it is and you get it done on time, right?
Yeah.
What's really fun and beautiful about working as a family is we shoot, and while we're shooting, we discuss whether it's any good or how we can improve it. And then we go home and we look at it, and we all look at it together, and there's then another conversation, and we can again go back out the next day and change anything we want. That is not the case when you're working with a bunch of people. You want to get what's written down done as the best as you can.
Yes. Yeah, because I remember when we were talking about Where the Devil Roams, and I think there was a scene in the car, and I think it was Lou was like, and she, I think, was running with some leaves, and it was just and I think it was with Hellbender, Zelda was talking about working with this new camera. And so you were trialing different shots, and by the end of the first day, you'd figured this thing out. And so now you were getting these shots. So it always seemed that there's this fluidity in what you do, right? And it's kind of, like Bruce Lee, where he's like, be like water. And you guys are like water to the extent that you just make things work, right? Whatever hurdle you might come across, it doesn't matter because you find that workaround. But because you're doing it the way you do it, you can do that. But yeah, on a big project, you don't have those sort of liberties. So it's just it was so interesting seeing you do this film.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and it's so nice that our complete souls. You just described our souls, and but that's, I'll say about working with under the industry rules is once you figured out what the rules were, I maybe right in the beginning we were a little we're used to our own rules, but very quickly you realize, it's going to be best if we follow the rules and do everything that we can do under the rules. Like push the rules as far as we can go, but don't push them out, because you're on a pirate ship. When you're working with a crew, it's a pirate ship, right? And you want all the pirates to be well fed and happy, because you do not want a pirate mutiny because then you're really fucked.
Yeah, you don't want what happened at the end to happen on set.
That's right. That's right.
Oh man, like, was there any concerns of like jumping into this and losing that Adams family DNA? Because even watching this, I like towards the end, there's the scene when the dig crew are walking, and it's to the music, and you've got those heavy like synth basses, and I was just like, oh, this is so Adams family right here. You know what I mean? It was just like you had these synonymous kind of like shots and effects and things like that, and like there was moments in the film where you'd be like, that's so Adams family right there. You know what I mean? But this, you know, when you were talking just a minute ago, Toby, saying that it's kind of it feels slightly different from the other stuff. Well, it's kind of like a cousin, right? It feels like a cousin to the family. But yeah, so what was that like thinking about like your DNA and like incorporating it without losing it?
I love the way you put that. Yeah, it was really important to us. And I think there were concerns about that, which is why it was really, especially because we weren't shooting, you know, a lot of how we shoot is with our little, you know, something that's very mobile that we carry around. This was with an RE Alexa. We'd never shot with that before.
With a different cinematographer too.
Yeah. And with, and so that in itself was very different, but that's why it was really important that John both edited the film and then also that he was going to score it.
Yeah. There's it wouldn't be the same with a different kind of score. Like there's just something about your scores.
It's great that you pointed out the edits and the score, and I gotta say thank you so much. And I also have to say thank you to Shudder, because you know, when I put the edits together, I think some financiers or big, you know, executive producers could have been like, no way, you know what I mean? No way. You know, but they were like, great, this is you're doing your thing, looks great. And so I have to give them a lot of thanks for allowing me creative freedom to kind of like what you say, keep as much DNA of ours as we could in this film.
I mean, it's a smart thing, right? Because why get the Adams family if you don't want the Adams family? Like it makes no sense, right? But we've seen it, like the amount of times like people will get someone in, but then be like, oh, but change that and don't do that. But then when it works, it's beautiful. You know, it's like having I want to say it's John Watts, like, because I think he made one indie film before Marvel got him to do the Spider-Man films with Tom Holland, right? And those films are so good, but they've got I think they're good because they've got this different sensibility about them, right? They do feel kind of indie-ish.
Yeah.
Right? But you could have gone to when he's on set, be like, right, John, we want you to do this, change that, don't do that. No, we're doing this, and you have a completely different film. Right. So I think it's people having the sense to let you guys just be able to do your thing, you know?
I think the first Iron Man was done by the guy who acted in the Swingers.
Yeah, John
also he also like brought this indie like feel to Iron Man, like a Marvel thing. And I remember when I first saw it, I was like, wow, there's something magic about this. It's not like it is a big Hollywood production, but it doesn't like taste saccharine like one.
Yes.
So yeah, it is cool when the big producers allow, the new blood to do their thing,
Yeah. I mean, what is interesting, I kind of feel, and going off topic a little bit here, there's, I think, is it something Graham Greene? I can't think of his first name, but he did the Halloween trilogy.
Is it Thomas something Green?
It's I want to say
Michael. Is it Michael?
Oh, I think you're right. Michael something Green. Yeah. Michael Thomas Green?
Something,
yeah. I think it might be that. I mean, Mike, you know who you are, Mike, right?
Yeah.
But, he was an indie guy, right? And they brought him, he'd been making a load of great indie films, and they brought him in to, reinvigorate this franchise. What do you think, guys? Do you think, like, is there a franchise that you could be enticed to work on?
That's a fun question. I really love vampires, but I have to think of what that would be.
Well, I got to ask you, if you had to assign us a franchise, what would it be? That's more fun. I'd love to hear your brain think that one through.
Ooh, okay. If I had to give you something, oh my. Huh. Yeah, that's
because while you're thinking of it, I won't speak for Toby, but I'll speak for myself. I don't know that I would want to do a franchise. I think there's enough people out there doing franchises that it's like, I look at franchises as I look at like huge pop stars. It's like, I love a pop song when it's on the radio, but that's generally not the music that talks to me.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Something like The Thing, right? Okay, so if someone came along and said, "How about you? Do you want to do The Thing too?" I would say I would want to say yes, but I think I'd have to say no, because it only goes downhill from there. Like, unless you're a huge artistic genius, which I'm not, so I would say no, because it's only going to go downhill from what that masterpiece is. I don't know. I think it's too tricky, because I just love original art, and I would love to try to keep trying to be an underground original movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've kind of done the thing with Hellhole,
in a sense,
but an original, homage kind of to, like, not having to work within the confines of that story and do it in that way. So you've taken a completely different idea with a kind of a themic feel of that, but it's your own thing. And that's what's, that's the great thing, right? You know what I mean? Just creating your own IP, having your own ideas, breathing life into something that isn't already propped up.
Well, on that note, Kevin, what about Hellbender? I mean, I could revisit Hellbender and have some sequels with Hellbender, because I think that's built into that in a beautiful way. Like Izzy goes on world tour, eating her way across the globe.
Yes.
Mother eventually Mother gets eaten so that Izzy can create her own Hellbender. So I'm just gonna, it might be solipsistic, but I'm gonna say I would franchise Hellbender.
And Zelda keeps talking to me about it. She's like, we might have to send Izzy on tour. And it's like, Zelda, we do need to send Izzy on tour, but we have to come up with the nugget that makes it worthwhile. Do you know what I mean? You could never, like, you'd have to do it for the right reasons.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's, that is definitely, That would be great.
That would be fun.
Great. Oh. I don't know. Maybe it's like something like you've got like a label has reached out, wants to make a deal, but then it's turned out that it's all shiesty, and they've they've stolen the royalties, right? So then she's going to track them down, right? And that's the revenge is like they get eat.
And not only that, but like I've already thought of
Very
some fun
unwise.
ideas, like because I've been in bands. So how great would it be if there's creative differences and suddenly the bass player's not there if when they're leaving the hotel. Like, I don't know where she is, but but the drummer is now like much better because she's a hellbender and she just ate the bassist.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no. Yeah, that would be great. Actually, yeah. More of that would be awesome.
It could be really fun.
I think kind of feels there could be more hellhole as well.
Right. It like there could be so much. Well, you could mix brutality and humor like such a great way. And plus, women in their 20s are so interesting. They're so powerful. It really is built. There's a lot there. But like I said before, you got to find out the genuine reason why you're doing it. And it can't be, it cannot be an S with 2 lines through it.
No. Like, yeah, when, there's a legitimate reason for a sequel.
Yeah.
That's when it always works. You know what I mean? Like, and we've seen it so many times and especially when people are taking like these old franchises like Coming to America and Beverly Hills Cop, then it's just like, wait, what are we doing?
Well, what's your favorite part 2? What's your favorite franchise remake? When do you think that's a success?
I mean, like Aliens was just, I think, like what was it? There was always 2 that would always jump to mind, like Aliens, but I think because it was so different from the first film, like it's a different genre essentially, so that works so well.
And a new twist.
Yes, that's great. I really enjoyed Blade 2, but again, Blade 2 is more of a monster kind of like a monster mash type of film compared to the first one. Like now there's this team hunting down the vampires and everything like that, so it's very different tonally to the first Blade, but it's really good.
Well, you mentioned Spider-Man, and actually the Spider-Man with Tom Holland to me is the best one ever. Like I think it's come a long time to find out what's great about Spider-Man, and that's no bad remark against the actors and the people who directed the first couple, but when Tom Holland showed up, it suddenly became very good.
Well, I think the thing with Spider-Man and where Spider-Man really works is Spider-Man at school, right? It's that youthful, innocent, and the way that those youthful eyes are now looking at this Marvel universe and like interacting. Like when he meets Nick Fury in the second one, he's like, "Oh my God, you're Nick Fury!" Like, and he's like Iron Man. He's like, "Oh, Tony, Mr. Stark, Mr. Stark, yeah, can I?" You know what I mean? And it's all, and that's the great thing because he doesn't quite feel like he deserves to be in the room.
Yeah.
And we all kind of feel like, do we deserve to be in the room? You know what I mean? So you can all go, oh yeah, I feel that, I understand that. And with the other films, you know what I mean, because he was older, so you don't quite get that same thing. And with this one, they just nailed it on that front, and I think that's why those films work so well.
Also, the original ones, the Spider-Man was very sad. Remember how like there was a lot of sadness in And that's not fun.
Mm.
You know, yeah, sad movies can be cool, but for some reason it always bothered me a little. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's finding the magic in something.
Right.
It definitely is. But yeah. I mean, your films just work. Like, do you ever, until Zelda brought up Hellbender, had you ever thought about sequels to projects?
Not not really. That's the thing. The only one we've talked the most about. Hellhole, we thought we were having fun thinking about, since the monster has a fondness for men. We thought a sequel could be about a lot of women kind of banding together as a force against it.
To get the mother.
Yeah. Still down there.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
It would be great to have a female combat unit facing off with this monster that doesn't want anything to do with them.
Yeah.
And kind of sees them as friends.
So
it's like there could be so many fun little twists and turns in that.
Yeah, because I think the monster, I mean, in a way, everything sort of wants to survive. And this is a monster that is looking that is actually, I mean, I think it can be looked at a couple of different ways, but can you blame something for just wanting to survive and to evolve? Like I always think of the film as a kind of evolutionary horror, because it really doesn't want to hurt anyone unless it's threatened. And it's trying to meld with another very intelligent species, to build a different future. So,
and no one's given it a chance to birth. Well, now
at the end,
Teddy is.
At the end, we leave it, up in the air whether he's about to give birth, a wetter birth.
Well, I really love the ending, because there's kind of a little ambiguity there, right? Because it's just like, did it get him, right? Are they just chilling? Because you can look at the scene being like, yo, we just escaped some horrific shit, and they're just like so relieved and just like, oh my god, I can't talk about this, it was so traumatic, this whole thing was traumatic. Or it's just like, fuck, what do we do now? How do we handle this situation? You know what I mean? So there are different ways to look at the end, and you're just like, what happened? What happened here?
I'm so glad you said that, because that was Toby's ending. She wanted it. We shot another ending. She stood her ground, and the ending has had a great impression. We've got a lot of nice feedback on the ending, and that's all Toby standing her ground on a creative choice, because we shot 2 different endings, and that's the one. When I kept putting in the other one, and she's like, no, you're gonna put that ending after the credits. No, this is the ending. And she was right. It's great.
Well, yeah, it's your kind of Inception moment, right? Like at the end of the Inception, it's like, does the thimble stop? Right? And that's kind of this ending. It's just like, oh, did it get him? Did it not get him? Are they cool? What's going on? And so you can have your own kind of take on where we are now in this world.
I have to say, another thing that Toby wrote in the script that I love, that I didn't even know until we were watching it for like the 4th time on the big screen at one of the showings, where I was like, oh my God, Toby, where Teddy in the beginning of the movie says, I just want to be a stay-at-home dad. And Ollie says, how's that working for you? And he's like, I'm working on it. And so if he has the monster, he's a stay-at-home dad now.
That is true. That is true. Yeah. Yeah. I did. Yeah, that was it was funny, because there were moments, other things like that in the film, but where sometimes it can feel forced PC, right? Be like, oh yeah, it's all about equal abilities and this, and it just can feel a bit like, but like within this, again, it was the balance, right? And just with all the dialogue, there was just that right balance. Everything worked really well.
Great. And that's, that you bring up the PC thing is, it was important for us not to say, red's good, blue's bad, red's good. It was important. That's why, like, for example, the scientist is kind of the antagonist. Like, he's against fracking, but he's for these things. Like, we wanted to be sure, let's mix this up so it's not like a Hollywood PC bludgeoning. Do you know what I mean? So that everybody's got their foot in the pond.
Yeah, and that was a great thing about all of that, right? Because him and Livia, they're all about trying, against fracking and everything like that. But it's not just, well, this is who we are and only who we are, right? They've got these other things. Like, she then, sides with Teddy, right? And he then does what he does. And so it's just like people actually felt rounded out. Right, because we're in this weird situation where it's just like, well, if you support this person, then you have to be on the same, page as all of these other things, and you'll be like, well, I like that, but I don't like that. You know what I mean? Like, can I not have differing opinions on certain things? Like, So that was the interesting thing, that these people were rounded. They were more rounded than you often see.
You've brought up just a lot of great things, and that especially was important to us. So I'm glad that you felt that.
Yeah, no, it's I just think it's just something that you always find in your work, with what the characters do. I mean, when you look at Where the Devil Roams, you know what I mean? Like, you've got this woman just killing these people, but it was just like, you could see why, right? And you're just like, okay, all right. I mean, I can see it, right? So there's always this interesting thing. It's not just black and white, right? Which I think is fun, playing with the ambiguity.
It is.
I mean, humans are complex, and I think we're interested in complex people.
And broken heroes. Like, it's no fun to just have a pure hero.
No.
It's so much more fun to have a hero that is also very broken.
Yes. Yeah, that is. I mean, the end scene of Where the Devil always just like, yo, like that was, because you just don't expect it. You know what I mean? And it's that kind of thing where you're just like, oh shit, right.
I love that you're bringing that up while we're driving to North Dakota to see Where the Devil Roams on the big screen, because the people that are putting it on said they needed to see the final scene on the big screen. And so it's like, it's pretty funny. There's a theme going on.
Oh, tremendous. Oh man, when you finish your usual films, like, is the emotion different, right? Is it a different kind of thing to how Hellhole, like when you finish Hellhole?
I mean, our finish with our typical films are more of a gentle ending than Hellhole, because they just roll out so much longer. Hellhole we shot for 19 days and we were done, and there was no going back to that amazing former Soviet era mine in Serbia to shoot. So it was more finite. It definitely felt different. Our usual films, just sometimes we don't know when they're going to end. They just, when they're done, they're done. Like right now we were shooting two things. We're shooting two films. One we can see is pretty close to being done. The other has a little bit more to shoot, but we know we're going away, so there will be kind of a hard end in sight for both of them.
I have always sadness when our family movies are done, and it's just because they're always so. It's just so great to be sitting in the woods with my family, and when they're done, it's sad
and a bit of withdrawal.
Yeah,
there's definitely, like, I always feel like my characters are in me, especially Maggie from Where the Devil Roams. I love her devoutly. I just loved her so much, and I loved playing her. So sometimes I really miss her, like mad. You know? And I don't want to kill people, but I just loved her heart.
I think that's one reason why we always have another movie. We always start something else because it is joyful.
Yeah,
you know, it is joyful, so why not continue it? And like, for example, we came home and shot a movie with Zelda and Lulu after Hellhole, just because everybody wanted to be together, and actually we didn't think it was good enough, so we moved on to other movies. Like, we shot a whole movie and we're kind of like, there's just issues with it, you know. But the thing is it was still a joyful process. So, you know, I missed that movie. Like, it was a really joyful process. And but like, artistically, we're like, I think we made some creative errors maybe, and so we had to keep moving.
So will you go back to that one, or?
Well, we were just talking about it today. We'll always go back to it because we're not really sure what the error was. It's in our heart.
I think if we go back to it, we'll find a kind of cool way to work with it. I'm not sure it'll exist as what it was meant to exist as. I think we'll find some other way to, like, use it, almost like a film within a film, which I think is really cool. I'm really excited by that idea.
And it was a beautiful, I love the idea.
Wicked.
It was a super wicked movie. And I almost wonder whether that might be what was missing, was like love. Even though it was all of us making a movie with three other wonderful actors, maybe it was too wicked, and maybe we don't understand it.
Right. Okay.
I know we're being a bit obtuse, but it's but like Toby said, we just shot two movies that we do understand, and we very much love them. And again, the girls are involved in those. We're all back together waiting on clouds again. But this time we learned, even from the mistakes we made on the one we're talking about. Like, we were like, okay, these are probably the mistakes we made, which is it probably doesn't have enough love.
Well, no, I think it's like interesting that you can, you know, even though you've been working on this stuff for so long, that there's still that learning curve, there's still that evolution in what you're doing, right? That's fascinating. Like, with the music, because, you know, again, you scored this one and it's fun, right? Like, at what point in the creative process do you start to hear the notes, would you say?
When we make movies as a family, we do the music even before we even start shooting. So the two processes walk hand in hand. We're writing music as a family, we're singing as a family, we're coming up with the lyrics as a family as we're shooting. So when it comes time to editing, we have 13 to 20 songs sitting right next to the visuals that are coming across. So we just start pulling things in. With Hellhole, I wrote the music for the edit. Like I started editing and I would look at how it needed to be edited and I wrote the music to it. So like even those jump cuts that you're talking about, the music was written for that.
Right. Okay.
So that is not the way we generally do it, but that's the way I had to do it this time.
What did that feel like as a process?
I thought it was really interesting. It was fun for me. Like it was just like creatively like fun because I had never done it and I had to do it. So I got to do this, and I enjoyed it. I very much enjoyed it, and I tried to make the soundtrack be a mix of kind of American punk metal and Euro trash beats. So like that was kind of interesting. So I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun. Toby was, you know, my kind of like I would call her my producer because we were traveling together and I was doing all the music and I'd be like, how does this feel? And, you know, some things felt good to her, some things didn't. And I think the two of us worked our way through that soundtrack pretty well. And I really love the soundtrack. It's very different than Hellbender, or I find it is, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like Hellbender adjacent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like that side project an artist goes on, you know what I mean, when the band's on hiatus for a minute.
It really is. And it's much more male, I would say, than Hellbender. What I love about Hellbender is I find a lot of female in it, and I love that very much. And my soundtrack for Hellhole, I would say, is pretty male.
Yeah, just before this, I was listening to Murder, and oh my god, it's like it's such a great. I was just like, oh, I've got to, you know what I mean, I've got to have the conversation, but you're just like, I want to listen to this again.
Oh, that's so nice that you say that. That's so nice. And that's the soundtrack for the movie that we're working on, Mother of Flies. And that's a great example of what we're talking about. Like, we decided to put the music out for Mother of Flies early because it's like what happens is we put out these movies and then too much happens and I can never put out the soundtrack. Right. So this time we were like, why don't we just, you know, roll out the music, because it goes to the people that are our community, you know, and so why not? I mean, there's no rules that says you can't put this out and have people listen to it and get feedback, you know?
Oh yeah, and it's like an advert for what's to come, right? It's laying those breadcrumbs for people. And then when you're watching, you know, maybe a part of the film and you hear, like, it might not be the full song, it might just be a few beats, or, you know what I mean? You'll be like, wait, isn't that? No, that's Murder, right? That's Murder. Oh shit. Yeah, I love that song. You know what I mean? It's just those kind of things.
Well, we feel like we have a real team, that we're a part of a really fun team. And so releasing those tunes is for our team. So exactly what you say, when Mother of Flies comes out, our team will know this song and they're all part of the process. They've made comments about it. We've talked about that. It's kind of like being a part of a really fun team.
Oh man, I think everyone just wants to become part of the friggin' family. You know, it just always just looks so much fun.
You are right now with this conversation. Hey.
Oh man, like, I always love these conversations, guys. Thank you so much for always making the time. I really appreciate it.
We love talking to you, Kevin. Thank you.
We do.
Oh man, it's great. Like, with, you know, one thing I was very curious about with Hellhole, like the oh god, I can't think of the words, like the creature prosthetics.
Yes.
Yeah, we work with a really great person named Todd Masters. He's got a company called Masters FX, and he's been around for decades. He's known for being like it's, you know, making his monsters and beautiful practical effects. And he came all the way from Vancouver, Canada, to work with us in Serbia, which was so lucky. And I think it was fun.
Oh man.
on the ground again. You know, this was real small potatoes for someone like him, but he, I think, had a great fun, but it doesn't compare to what we had with him. He's just a huge mensch, a wonderful guy. His team made a beautiful monster that we really enjoyed working with. And then our guy, Trey Lindsay, who works on our films, he was over there too, working in stop motion, and he and Todd were a great team. And so that was that. Yep.
What were those discussions like, right? For getting that right. To, you know what I mean, finding something that really worked.
Todd was under the gun too. He got brought on. Everybody was kind of had to move fast. So basically what's really fun about what Todd did was Todd's been in the business for a long time. He's done Slither. He's done everything. Tales from the Crypt. He did all the monsters for Tales from the Crypt.
Right.
His resume is massive. So what Todd did, even he was on Men in Black, you know. So what Todd did was create a monster out of his monsters, because he couldn't necessarily just start from scratch. So he was like, all that, put it on that, sew that together, and boom, we had this wonderful monster. And he made us two. One that was like a huge hand puppet that was, you know, weighed like 60 pounds, and the other was animatronics. And then he made Trey a tiny little perfect model for stop motion.
Oh, nice.
So Todd really kicked ass. And like Toby said, beyond being an amazing artist, he's just a great human. You want to be standing next to him when you're shooting movies, because he's a great human.
Yeah, the monsters were great. That I think that was a thing. And you know, again, it's just with all your films, like all the components work. Right? There's not something you're like, it was good, but it's a shame about the sound. Oh, it was good, but the acting was a bit shaky at that point. No, it's just like everything works so well. There's such a synergy in what you do. So it's always just so enjoyable. So enjoyable, guys.
That means the world to us. We know you're watching a lot of movies. So if you can say that about ours, that is special.
You just keep making them, and I'll keep enjoying watching them.
Well, we got some fun ones coming up for you.
Well, I cannot wait for those. Most definitely. So, but yeah, when they're ready, please come by and we can have another conversation. Maybe make one in the UK.
We would love that.
Yeah, that would be fun. Well, I really appreciate the time. Thank you.
We do too. Thank you so
and we'll
much.
look forward to the next one. Thank you, Kevin.
No, I just appreciate you. Like make, you know what I mean? Just obviously you're off to a screening and all of that, and you made this time. So thank you so much.
Anytime.
Yes.
Well, peace. Have a great night.
You too, guys. Enjoy the rest of the evening.
Ciao.
Bye, Kevin.
Bye. Bye.